Hi, welcome to the Yaoi Shelf.
Hi.
I threatened Carola.
You before this show started, I've been flipped off and threatened.
You have.
And we've been here 5 minutes.
We have. Hello. Welcome.
Hello.
It is July, which means it's our birth month.
Oh my god.
Carola's birthday is sooner approaching than mine.
Hooray.
Okay, well, I tried.
No, it's fine. But yeah, my birthday is on Friday. It's on the 7th.
The face of a man who tried.
You tried.
I finally got all of the pieces of your gift in.
Wow.
They're in a box just off camera. And I won't spoil, but the cutest interaction happened with one of your gifts. So I won't spoil it.
Will you tell me when I get it?
I will.
Okay.
I will. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget, because Lord knows it's not going to arrive till sometime next month.
True.
Because Lord knows it's not arriving until sometime next month. But
yeah.
Welcome to the Yaoi Shelf.
Welcome.
Grab a seat and relax. Carola, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about representation 2.0 in BL.
We are. So fans of the old show will know that we have, as a show, have talked about representation in the past. And while I don't think that the old episode is invalid, please don't die.
I'm sorry, it's the dust. I was doing a storage cleanup today, and I'm fucking dying.
Yeah, she's not just like being held hostage. Like, you can't just say it's the dust like you're a coal mining child. Like,
remind me to share a picture in the Discord afterwards about what my shoes look like, because oh my god.
Because right now you sound like one of those like Victorian coal mining children who just like comes out like an Aberfam disaster thing. You're just like covered in soot and coal. And it's like, Mother says I might be able to have a piece of cake if I bring back enough to heat the furnace. You just sound.
I mean, that's what it feels like.
I may be graced with a small slice of plum if I work hard enough in the mines. Just like a wistful Victorian child who's been kept in the mines.
Oh dang! You found my real identity.
I mean, mood and same. So we talked about representation on the old show, but I will say it's a perspective that is very it's limited. It's definitely the perspective of two old black people.
And also, it was recorded? How many years since you recorded that one?
Like it's been at least like 2.
Yeah, and it's a lot of things have happened in the world of BL in 2 years.
A lot of things have changed, and I want to really talk about, because I think we focused a lot on like racial representation in that. Which is something that I still have feelings about. If you go over to my blog, I just posted about my feelings about race headcanons and Nicholas D. Wolfwood. Because I know, right? Occasionally I still blog. But we're not here to talk about that today. I think there is a space to talk about that. And I think that old episode is a good starting point for a new conversation. But today we're really talking about representation in broad strokes, like what I did with my highlighter today. Broad strokes.
Oh, damn.
I was watching Nikki Tutorials, who is a queen.
I love Nikki.
I didn't start following Nikki until very, very recently. I'm kind of glad, because I think if I like was following her when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, she's horrible. Because all makeup was horrible back then. Like, it's not personal. Like,
when I say I watched her, like, because I will listen to people's story times and not actively watch, but I'll be listening. So I've listened to a lot of her story times. But I've never really paid attention to her makeup videos, because obviously I don't usually do makeup. And then she was the host of Eurovision a couple of years ago, and I was like, what? Because I didn't know she was Dutch. Or she's Dutch, right? Yeah,
she is Dutch. Also, she was outed. She had to like force come out as trans.
Oh yeah.
And like she really took that. But my point was, she was like reviewing this highlighter product, and she said not all of us are highlighting like it's 2016, and it's like, I am still highlighting like it's 2016. I want the sharpest, like done with a credit card, like highlight line. Like every time you turn, you just blind someone. Because I still put on makeup like a drag queen.
But I don't know how to do any of those things, so you'll have to teach
if you ever come to the United States or I ever go to Norway, which one of those is more likely than the other.
Yeah, one of those.
I will be more than happy to share with you all of my makeup tips. Yes. So you may one day look as painted as I do. So we are here to talk about representation in broad strokes and really how much things have changed even just in the past couple of years, because things have been changing. Carola, we do this at the top of the show now. You want to tell our fine listeners about Patreon?
Yes, because I did such a great job last month. I am actually terrible at this every month. We have a Patreon. We're super grateful to our patrons because they allow us to, first of all, go absolutely unhinged in our monthly exclusive episodes that are wild.
Yes.
Yes.
Like text notes are insane.
Yeah, they are insane. I do recommend that you consider checking them out.
I do too.
Yeah. I do too. And patrons also get exclusive merch, exclusive input sometimes on what we might be doing.
Including our Halloween costume this year.
Yeah. I am so nervous about that because I'm like, because I will potentially have to order things. And I'm like, well, we need to start cracking on that now if I'm to have all the pieces.
Okay, we're going to go back real vintage with Yaoi Shelf. We had a meeting. I gave you an outline that I said in August, we're going to come together with our decisions. That way we pitch it to the patrons. And then I've been planning this the entire time.
Okay, but I am a chaos gremlin who left my brain in the mines today. And
who left your brain in the storage closet and forgot that I had all those protections saved in.
I can't remember a single thing from that meeting we had because that was weeks ago.
It was. I can't confirm it was weeks ago.
I am a different person now. Or actually, I'm less of a person now. So as we are steadily going into my personal organizer hell.
True. But yeah, patrons get to decide what we're wearing for Halloween this year, including we're taking suggestions. Very high on my list are a pair of murderous cops.
Oh. I like that.
The only time I'm not a cab.
It's different.
It's different.
The only acceptable cops.
I was going to make an otter pun, but I didn't want you to quit the show.
Tama, yes. I'm fine.
Triggered. Triggered. Okay, so here's where we have to make a blanket statement.
Okay.
Things have changed in the world of BL.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Some would argue that those changes are for the better.
Are you not one of those people? It's like when you say it like that, it's like some people, and they are wrong.
No, I think it's a case-by-case scenario. We're going to get there. But things certainly have moved in a direction that I feel like is better representation for a wider swath of people. We've discussed this in the Fusion Pipeline episode. We've discussed this in the Our Fusion Way episode, that I feel like companies are finally starting to understand that Fujin is a diverse group and doesn't just involve Fujoshi. Mm-hmm. While Fujoshi are still a majority, that majority status is definitely starting to narrow and incorporate more people that are non-binary, are gender fluid, are fudanshi, who have always been part of the community and would be very, very upset if I ignored them. Because I know all of them. All of the Fudons, I know all of them.
You know every single one.
Every single Fudon. All of them. I know all of them. They're all my friends. But companies are finally starting to catch on. They're also starting to catch on that gay does not necessarily just mean one linear thing anymore. Mm-hmm. That it means lots of different things. That queer means lots of different things. And they're also trying to make very, very necessary steps into things being a little bit less problematic.
I am so tired of that word.
I'm not, only because when I think about how certain things were portrayed in the yaoi and BL that we were growing up with, it wasn't good.
No. And we've talked about that.
We have. The specter of Yoshiki Kitazawa floats off camera. Right? Like that. Like, is that probably representation for a certain type of trans person? Absolutely. Is that good representation for a lot of trans people? No. No, it's not.
No.
Because, well, yeah, like, ContraPoints, you can mark that off your bingo card. It's 11 minutes in, I'm talking about her. When she did her autogynephilia episode, yeah, there are some trans people that are autogynephiles. Like, that is true. But you can't assume that about every person. And that can't be the only type of trans person you show in media.
Mm-hmm.
So companies are starting to get wise to the fact that you can't just say a character is trans and have them be a man in a dress. You can't just throw around certain words. They have meanings. A lot of sexualities are much more complicated than they were in the 1990s and the 2000s. There's newer ones.
Yeah.
So steps are being made. Do you have anything you'd like to echo to that point?
Well, if we're talking about the diversity in terms of, sexuality and gender norms, and
I would love to talk about that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, how to phrase, how to word. I'm thinking I can't. No, I mean it's exactly like you said. Companies, mangaka. I mean, if we're talking about the BL industry, so manga and light novels and games and the whole live action series spectrum. There's definitely a lot more diversity in terms of how they express those sexualities and how like the way that the characters express themselves or identify or just within the genre itself. That again, I think that it's like a balancing act, because on one hand you definitely do still have a lot of, say, manga that adheres to the old school tropes, about how the uke is always a twink, and there is an uke and a sem, and you still have a lot of those, but then you also have a lot more less static stereotypical characters and more well-rounded. I almost want to use the word realistic characters. And so, so that there's like, it's kind of like, even though because I will always say that I separate BL from Western LGBTQ content or male content. And I mean, there is an overlap, obviously, and there is a borrowing. There is, because we are influenced by each other, especially living in a global world, but I still separate them, because BL at its core, even though as I did see Dr. Thomas talk about this on Twitter the other day, like it's wrong to just brush BL away as a fantasy, but then at the same time, at its core, BL has this fantasy aspect, so it doesn't have to be representative, and every single BL doesn't have to be going for that, like almost like the Oscar of the BL world in terms of representation. And
no, 100%. And I'm gonna circle that to come back to it later, because I think we both have a lot to say when it comes to that. And I think what's great is that now there are more stories that do represent more people. I have not always looked to BL or male romance for representation, even as someone who masquerades as a male occasionally. That's not where I'm looking for my representation. But I have nothing but respect for people that are and are happy to see characters that look, sound, act more like they do. I think here's where I love it the most is when especially Western creators take up that charge and run with it. I think that's where I'm the most proud of seeing it is in web comics, it's in visual novels, it's in spaces like that. That's where I'm usually the happiest to see it. And if I do see it in media coming from Japan, it's different. Because I think we have to get the elephant out of the room, essentially, and very quickly. Japan has different thoughts about things.
Yeah. I mean, all cultures do. And we talk, and we talk about this all the goddamn time. Like you have to look.
Not all the goddamn time.
Well, I do in my personal life, but there's the historical context, there's the personal context, there's the cultural context always. And Japan is getting a lot better when dealing with LGBTQ plus issues, but it doesn't change the fact that, for instance, two experiences that I've had personally in my life. The last time we were in Japan, I was very excited because there was this segment on the morning news where they were actually spending like a day with a gay couple, like with a male couple who lived in Tokyo. They were both Japanese. But the thing is, it was like, I was like, oh, this is exciting because they're putting this on like mainstream morning news, but it was so basic. It was like, okay, first we're gonna introduce the word LGBTQ, like the letters and what they mean, and then we're gonna go and meet this couple. And then I get that what they were doing was like, because they are in many ways lagging behind in normalizing and talking about these types of relationships. And so they're kind of doing what we like what Norwegian TV did maybe 30-40 years ago, where it would be like, okay, we are now visiting these people at their house, and wow, you have a dog like a normal couple does, and they didn't a normal couple, but they were like, oh, you also do this very normal human thing. And it was
I remember like the real sex documentaries that were on like HBO in the US, because they'd come on right after Sex in the City and before the L Word.
Oh god, I hate the L Word. Yes,
but you make so many L Word references.
I know, because I hate watched the whole thing, and I just finished watching season 3 of Generation Q, and I still I hate everyone except Shane. I love Shane.
Of course you love. Oh my god!
Of course, who doesn't love Shane? I mean, honestly.
It's true. Everyone loves Shane.
I started watching that show because of her, not because of Shane, but because I'd actually seen the actress in something else, and she confused me there too. So I was like, I need to see this person more. But yeah, yes. Go on about your documentary.
But I'd be like, oh, we're hanging out with, a BDSM couple, and it's always like the leatheriest leather dominatrix who's always like Eastern European, because that's every dom. Every dom is an Aryan-looking Eastern European Amazon woman who's 6 feet tall, clad in leather, and the largest, roundest, least in shape businessman.
I mean, if you're going to make a documentary like this, like obviously you have to go to the most extreme stereotype.
You do
to confirm those, or else how else are you supposed to inform humans? It's very
right, because you can't be subtle.
No,
that doesn't exist. But it does feel like they're making steps that we, the Western world, has taken 30 years ago. And I say that in the U.S., a country that just ruled that businesses can legally discriminate against queer people.
Your country is moving backwards in time.
We know.
I actually found out somewhere quite recently, like this week, that apparently gay sex was technically still illegal in the US in 2003.
Yes.
What the hell? What is happening?
So to this day, Texas has this decency law where you can't own more than 6 dildos.
Oh yeah, because we've talked about that.
It's super hard to enforce. I don't know how they enforce it. I don't
How do
know.
you? I mean, I guess if everyone just shops on Amazon, there will be like a. Oh, I'm sorry.
You've maxed out your dildo count for the state.
The government has logged you on 6. You can't buy
too many.
What happens if one breaks though?
I don't know. It's not like a gun registry. There's more regulation on dildos than guns. We're not talking about representation.
I'm shocked. No, and then the other thing that I wanted to mention, again, I'm not saying that everyone in Japan is like this. I think that especially the young people are a lot more informed and a lot more aware, and activism is a big thing, and there's a whole like the genderless movement, like there's a whole bunch of things. But then you also have like people like my friend who I believe I've mentioned this before. This is a guy who I've hung out with him in Japan. He's been to visit us in Norway several times. He knows me and my girlfriend. He's been to our house where we lived together. At least we did at that time. We lived together. And he knows that we're a couple and that we only had one bedroom. And then he somehow managed to ask me if I had found a boyfriend yet. Because he doesn't seem to quite grasp the gay thing.
Yeah. So I think that we do have to acknowledge that, Japan does still have a ways to go. I don't feel comfortable even broaching China at this point.
China is different. I really don't know a lot about China.
I mostly just want this video to stay up. So
yeah, but and again, but Japan is making progress, and
they are.
And you can see that in the BL as well. And
yes,
I've seen, like, for instance, I can't name any names right now, but I've seen mangaka who have been out and talking about representation and rights and being more on the social activism spectrum. Whereas I remember, I think like 10 years ago, I was reading this interview with Makoto Tatano, and she'd said that very clearly that BL isn't supposed to be representative. It's supposed to be, a fantasy. Like, she was of the belief back then. And I think this interview was old when I read it. So she may not have the same wouldn't necessarily say the same statement today. But it was just, you would have mangaka back then saying that it had nothing to do with activism. It was just a fantasy. But then now you have mangaka who are using their platform. So that has changed because awareness is happening.
100%. And it's even, the differences and various styles. Cross-dressing is a very, very common trope in a lot of BL. The radical difference between something like Jane no Subete and Boy Meets Maria, where that is a radically different approach to something that's shockingly similar at its core. Words I never thought I'd say, at least in that aspect. I'm not comparing the two. The two could not be more different.
Though they both have a fair share of trauma that
both have their fair share of trauma, but it's handled with so much more reverence than Jay's cross-dressing little hobby that he has in Jane no Subete. And it's interesting to see those changes come to fruition. It's interesting to see how the way that we as fans look at things in a different light, in a different regard. In our last live, we talked a lot about like headcanons and stuff like that. Now that we as a fandom have a greater language to understand these things, we do start ascribing, sexuality and gender orientation headcanons to characters.
Yeah.
And it can have some very, very fun conversations with it. It can also be a clusterfuck.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely can.
I'm just going to say it. It can be really, really fun and a great moment of genuine representation. It can also be an absolute nightmare. And people are going to argue to you a lot about genderless space rocks. Steven Universe.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have not touched Steven Universe.
If I can put my my immense hatred for Rebecca Sugar as an individual in a box.
All right.
I really used to love Steven Universe. I did. I really loved it.
I associate it with a person I absolutely do not like, so I have a
valid.
I have a strained relationship.
Valid. That's completely valid. But we are seeing BL move in these directions.
Yeah.
You see it definitely a lot more in Western BL, where you have these webcomics that are more willing to talk about this stuff. You see it in fan works. So there's change in the wind.
Yeah. Mandatory corner where I talk about Thai BL because that is apparently my life now. But no, I just want to, before I talk about the Thai BL, I just want to chime into what you said about the cross-dressing, because one thing that used to be such a normal trope to come across was that whole idea that gay men were cross-dressers. Like,
yes.
it was like, and I know that a lot of people, or I think it would be wrong to say a lot of people. I think that the term okama today is generally considered to be a slur. Even though, I mean, it's been used in both senses of the word, I suppose. But yeah, so, but it would be like, if there was a gay character, they would often be described to be an okama, and you would often show them cross-dressing, or it would be assumed, like, you would have characters who had like a sexuality crisis, and then they would be like, well, I'm not going to dress like a girl or anything. And it's like, well, of course not. That isn't what being gay means, but that was such a common trope back then. And now you see how
really was. And like every series would have this like the mandatory cross-dressing episode where it's like, oh, to do this convoluted, dumb plan, the uke has to be in a dress, and the seme has like an am I gay crisis. And it's just, I mean, yeah, that happens to people sometimes, or like, you put on opposite clothes and it's like, oh shit, this is me. Me cosplaying as Yuri Shibuya.
But it's also like that isn't necessarily conflated with your sexuality. Like, you can be gay,
no, it's not.
Without cross-dressing, and you can cross-dress without being gay, and then today you see a lot more, I feel, of these characters who don't even necessarily label themselves. And you see this even in Japanese manga, that it's more of a they're just doing and I really enjoy that. And then for the Thai BL, and I see this in Japanese BL as well, but particularly because the Thai companies are using this platform so much, that they are, a lot of the series I've seen lately have been very much like, they will have a scene where the characters are confronting stereotypes, or where they are confronting like, what is that word? Like, they're confronting biases, and then being like, just because I'm gay, it doesn't mean that blah, blah, blah. Or, why are there people who look down at us because we are like this? And they're using that platform, and so the medium itself in a variety of iterations and countries is being used to fight stereotypes and to educate the public and to, normalize things. And I think that is so cool, because it's like, you can still have that kind of, this is a stupid show or a stupid comic that is made to make your heart go a little doki doki, right? But at the same time, we can do important things. Like, you can have both, and I think that is very cool.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the way a lot of like superhero shows in the 90s and the 2000s did a lot of that. Like, Static Shock comes to mind, where like Static Shock's like half of its premise was to be a morality play, where it's like, oh, we're going to talk about race relations and homelessness and not meeting people off the internet.
It's like half of the point,
right? Like, half of the point of Static Shock and like Captain Planet, G.I. Joe, Sonic the Hedgehog, like, so much of that did feel like it was meant to be a morality play. And like, you could definitely see newer BL taking up that space where, like, they're almost like going out of their way to be like, well, no, you can't say that, that's, you can't say this character is she, that's a male, he is transgender. Like, they're going out of their way to do that. And I appreciate that a lot. I appreciate that they're being used as this teaching tool. And I think that that's great. I think that that's great for a generation that is hungry for that, some of the stuff can still be a little bit confusing if you aren't, regularly immersed in it. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, why is this not always wonderful? I think for me, it's intent. It's for me, it's intent. And we talked about this in a few episodes, but for me, whenever it's large companies making decisions like this, I always question intent. Are you doing this because you care, or are you doing this because you know it's going to make money? Do I think that Tokyo Pop actually cares about queer people?
Well, given Tokyo Pop's track record on
abandoning series, yeah. I mean, and I don't say that like to besmirch, like, capitalism is a monster. Like, I don't say that like, oh, the company is bad and soulless. Brr. Like, no, but company is gonna company.
Yeah.
So, like,
that's just how they work, unfortunately.
Right. So, like, how much of it is, you genuinely care about producing diverse stories to you see this as a trend that is going to make you money. And that's something that until some of these companies do either show their hand a little bit more or not, that I think I'm always going to approach this with a very like 90s, 2000s skepticism about it. Especially when it comes to certain mangaka, that it's like, okay, why are you doing this? Because I think one of the big issues that I have with it coming specifically out of BL and Yaoi is that there's still an authorship. I don't want to say issue, but issue is the first word that comes to mind. It's that you still have these works that are majority cisgender women or cisgender gay men that are writing these stories. And while we have advocated in the past loosely that it is okay to sometimes tell stories that are not your own, I am always going to question intentionality when you don't. So, and I do it with my own writing. I wrote Transgender Vash the Stampede, and I had a full-on crisis of faith. Like, I'm not trans. Do I have the right to talk about Vash's pussy? Like, is that something that I'm allowed to do? And it's like, well, I was doing it for fantasy and for porn. I'm not trying to represent people. I'm not trying to say, I am the expert of the transgenders. I just wanted to write Vash get nailed by his brother. So I did it.
Which is, what one does in a fandom. Yeah. It's valid. Right. It's part of the fandom experience.
Right. So, like, I wasn't trying to, like, take up the mask. Like, it wasn't like Les Mis, where it's like, I am now the king of the transgenders, and waving a flag. It was, yes.
No, I was just, well, that's a different version of that story than what I've...
I mean, I don't know, from where I'm sitting, it's the exact same story. It's a bitter couple of exes, and they're varying queer children.
No, fair enough.
So yeah, I'm always gonna have some authorial intent questions when it comes to that.
Yeah, which is valid.
Carola, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
I think, at the risk of sounding like I'm gonna end up sounding like one of these old grouchy, oh my god, fuck woke culture people. That's not what I mean, though. But I think for me, what comes to mind that I find that it's not necessarily, because I love that there's more diversity and representation. And,
I do too.
And I love it so much. But what bothers me is how the conversations, I mean, I think this is mostly, like a fandom thing or like a purity cult thing, where I get so fed up with people being so, hung up on representation and what is the correct way to enjoy and create and everything. And, that it becomes this it becomes this motion where so many people want only one kind of BL or only one kind of queer representation because it's the only acceptable one. And then they forget that we aren't a monolith. Like, your representation isn't necessarily my representation, and everything doesn't have to be representative, because as queer people, we also deserve to have, you know, fucked up, messy characters with flaws. Who, you know,
absolutely.
I love representation, but I think that representation also has to be genuine in the sense that characters must be allowed to be human, and so they are allowed to fuck up, and everything doesn't have to be like, if you make one, like, if you have a character who isn't a great person but he's gay, that doesn't mean it's bad representation of gay people. That is just one person being a fucking mess for the entire series. Like, that is important.
No, 100%. And it is very like purity culture. Like, it is a lot of fan talk. There are valid concerns about the media that represents a certain group having to be ideologically pure. I'm a Black person in America. Trust me, I know all about that shit.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, I know all about that shit. But yeah, there is a certain dialogue that comes up a lot where it's like, oh, this character is too problematic to be gay. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that all of us had to be saints.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if that's the case, then I guess I'm straight now.
Yeah, and then, you know, that internal, not to drag up that discourse again, but if you have, and we're not going to mention any names, but if you have, say, a comic that is very sweet and very wholesome, then all of a sudden it is infantilization and desexualization of queer men. But if you have a very sexual, raunchy, spicy, problematic relationship, then it's fetishization and it's glorification of toxic relationships, and you can't win. It's like, it's fiction, and we are allowed to explore things within fiction. Everything doesn't have to be a representation, is what I'm saying. But if you find 100%. Representation within it, then that's still valid.
Right. I think that's where, to me, this conversation is the same. If you watch the old video to now, is if I'm looking for representation, it is so much more than a one-to-one comparison.
Yeah.
There is on paper nothing about me that should relate to Yashiro from Twittering Birds Never Fly, except for being both dick pigs and having shitty childhoods.
Oh my god. At least you're not chain smoking.
Okay, I'm very orally fixated. I would 100% be a chain smoker if I didn't have asthma. I 100%. If you look at all of like my writing avatars, all of them have cigarettes. I 100% would be a chain smoker, but I have very bad lungs.
I think we should be grateful for that.
Yes, we should be grateful for that, because I would 100% just be Yuki Eri, just like eating cigarettes with a knife and fork.
Oh,
like, it'd be the worst.
Someone save that man from himself. Oh my god.
We've been trying.
Yeah.
He's been throwing several lifelines and he keeps popping them. But like, I don't need Yashiro to be a carbon copy of me to feel seen in him.
Yeah.
I didn't need that for Edward Elric when I was a teenager who had just lost their parent. I didn't need that, you know, to relate to. Honestly, I related a lot to Wolfwood back in 98 Trigun. Me and Wolfwood were like, I understand everything about this strange man, but I also would like to fuck him and steal his gender. Like an incubus. Both? Yeah, well, like an incubus, I would like to fuck you, but then like by proxy steal your gender.
Imagine if that's how it worked.
I'd love it.
I
consider two writers make eye contact.
Huh.
You know, but yeah, I think that it is a really, really reductive conversation sometimes when it's like, oh, well, this character is kind of messy, so they can't represent anyone.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that all of you were angels floating from on high, that none of you have made a bad decision in your life, that all of you are, I guess, church approved saints.
Of course.
I didn't know. I wasn't aware.
I guess you have to revoke my queer card because
yeah, I guess.
I guess
I'm
good
too,
enough.
I'm too problematic to be queer, I guess. New sticker coming to the shop.
Oh my god.
I'm so problematic, I'm straight now. But I also I don't want to be straight.
I don't want to be straight. I tried that. I tried. It didn't make me happy. It's not that I tried, it's just that I thought I was.
Yeah, I thought I was too, and then I just kept kissing girls.
Strange how that works out.
Yeah. If it's like my aunt says and it's a phase, oh boy, it's been like 20 years. Still waiting for it to run its course. But
let me know if it passes.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll let you know when the malady ceases. I'll let you know. But and then as a person of color, it takes up a lot of resources.
Yeah.
Talking.
I can imagine.
About characters that you don't own. About characters. You heard some of my vitriol about it in our BL Academia live, where it's like, I wish people would stop arguing about Wolfwood and just like pressure companies into making diverse characters. I don't like that he just fell. I saw him falling and I was, oh,
look at him! Look at my baby!
He's not the cursed one. There's a cursed one from like the early 2000s that scared the shit out of me.
If you're listener only, my Kurama plush, my Ninetales plush from Naruto, which I bought last weekend at a con, just fell from the back of the couch. And he's very cute, and you should watch the episode in video just to see him, because he's very cute. Look at him! Look at his little face.
Did he always look like that?
Yeah.
Okay. It's been a while since.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't look like that in the show, but he's so cute. He was like hidden in like this pile of plushies, and then I was like, "Is that?" And then I picked him up, and I knew that I was never letting him go. He didn't even have a price tag, so I was just gambling that I could afford him. Like, yeah,
mood. But it takes up so much resource. It takes up so much energy and conversation to argue about things when there's real companies, especially in the West, that still don't represent all kinds of queer people, that still don't know how to represent neurodivergent people, that still don't know how to represent trans people, that still don't know how to represent people that are non-binary, but any other flavor of non-binary. Because I think they're trying to understand non-binary. But like only the they, them kind of non-binary. Okay, cool. There's more to it than that. I just feel like sometimes it's such a waste of energy, especially bullying countries like Japan, like China, like Korea, like Thailand. When in our own backyard, we haven't gotten it right. And especially here in America right now, where we are going fucking backwards. You don't get to yell at Japan right now. Our own rights are in jeopardy.
And then it's like and we talk about this on the show, like this is part of the reason we're talking about representation, and that, what we see in fiction can be influential to our own lives. And, like Absolutely. When I talked about Thailand and how they use the platforms and the actors use their platforms. But even then, like, this is not the time to be upset about gay people not gaying right in a comic, while people are out there taking away our rights and spreading lies about trans people in particular in the media, and people actively using their platforms to take away rights and to spread fear-mongering. That's what you need to be upset about, not that there's this manga character who doesn't feel that you don't feel like is being gay in the right way.
Right. It's like, oh, this character, I personally, I think he's of color, so I'm going to spend all of my time, all of my rate limited tweets on Twitter.
Oh God, I'm so upset. What the fuck? I was working all of yesterday, and then I kept seeing the words rate limit. I was like, what the fuck is happening? And then I realized, okay, is your ghost
Someone
okay?
knocked at my door.
Oh my God. Should you
I don't
get
know
it?
who it is. They haven't knocked again. It's probably just Amazon. Let me check.
Okay.
They haven't knocked a second time.
But yeah, no, I'm not okay.
I'm not okay either. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I'm not fine either.
No,
yeah, it was just Amazon. Everything's fine. Oh,
are you getting something exciting?
Laundry detergent, bathroom cleaner, toothpaste.
I said exciting. Exciting, no. Amanda. You could have just said no.
No, I'm telling you. Tomorrow I have shampoo arriving.
Ooh.
Tomorrow I have shampoo. Wow. And hair oil coming in.
I am struggling. My mail has been a mess lately. It's just like not being delivered or being delivered to the wrong place. And the other day I had a package, DHL. Do you have DHL?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'm just checking. Because they were gonna deliver a package, and I was like, okay, don't know if I'm gonna be home. So I told them, I put in the little box on their little form, please leave it outside my door. And usually they do, but I think they have like summer, like people just working for, like temps working for the summer or something. Because this is the second package that they didn't leave at my door when I told them to. But this one was delivered to this kiosk that is at the mall, which is like, I mean, it doesn't take me very long to walk there, and I was going there anyway, but I was like, I was out, I get a text message, and they're like, you may now pick up your package at this location on the other side of town. I'm like, this isn't my doorstep. What is happening? So that's exciting.
Yes. But yeah, nothing exciting arrived. I decided I don't feel like leaving my apartment today.
Fair.
So I just ordered everything so I can live my once-ler life where I just like drag things in from my threshold. But yeah, I think that's my big thing about representation right now is that I feel like the current conversation just takes up so many resources when there are real tangible problems. Yeah. And I feel like it's all so I made a reference to the rate limited thing on Twitter. So there's actually like a thing right now that the rate limit isn't entirely real. It's basically just a false flag because Elon stripped the entire company of its infrastructure and he ended up DDoSing the entire company.
I hate this man.
I hate him too. So the rate limit was to like, look at the fire over here. Don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
But I'm like, 600 tweets a day?
It's up to 800 now.
Oh, wow. Listen, figure skating season is coming. I tweet 600 tweets a minute.
I know you do.
I'm fucked.
Well, that's not read. You have to read.
Yeah, but like if I, like if that's my own tweets, imagine what my timeline looks like. Do you know how many people I follow? Like,
Carola, I don't work for Twitter. I don't have answers for you.
No, I want you to have answers for me. I like you so much better than Elon. But can't you
that feels almost like an insult.
Yeah, actually, that sounded awful.
That doesn't sound nice at all.
No, I meant I want you to fix it for me.
Okay,
because I like you, and I trust
like that doesn't sound nice at all.
That was like a backhanded compliment.
I like you so much more than this person I objectively hate. But
no, that's not what I
meant. Sometimes like representation, like these conversations do feel like that. It's like, let's not talk about the fact that Japan still hasn't really legalized gay marriage. Let's focus on, oh, well, Victor and Yuri got engaged. Whee!
can't believe they robbed me of my wedding.
Huh?
I'm fine. No, they were gonna get married if he won the gold, remember? And then my beloved Russian child ruined it. I was cockblocked by my own favorite character.
Good.
No, my wedding.
I don't just believe in gay marriage. I also believe in gay divorce.
I mean, fair.
Thank you.
We also have the right to get divorced, just like anyone else.
Yeah.
Like, and and again, it's that thing.
And I hope it's because of the sex scandal.
But it's like, again, what do you think that we queer people do? Like, we fight about who has to do the dishes like everyone else. I don't understand.
And I think that's the other big part. You mentioned that, we're not monoliths. Yeah. And that's true. Like, is being bisexual and gender fluid a part of me? I mean, obviously. But, I mean, look at me, obviously.
Are you sure, though?
Are you sure?
No. I'm not sure about anything.
Can a straight man do this?
But again, you gotta remember that I'm a pansexual, which apparently means that I'm really confused. So I don't know anything.
Yeah, you're a lazy bisexual.
Yeah.
Because they can understand bisexuals.
Sometimes.
They're whores. Bisexuals equals whore. So pansexuals are like mega whores, and then we don't acknowledge what omnisexual is, because that sounds like you're sexual towards Omni-Man, which weirdly I am.
Wait, I have to. Okay, hang on. I gotta do some research.
Omni-Man from Invincible.
What?
He's another sketchy old man, and I like him a lot.
You have a type. Do you know that?
I do. He is a murderous, sketchy old man.
Why does he look like that dude in Spider-Man?
Because he's voiced by the same guy.
Oh my god.
It's J.K. Simmons. So it's J.K. Simmons as a murderous dad. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, sounds like your type. Let's go. Oh my god. See, this is Amanda dragging down the entire queer community with her love for shady, bad gay men.
Yes.
This is all your fault.
Yes, it is me. It is my fault. I'm the problem with the queer community.
Not only are you a liar because of all of your long cons, but on top of it all, you're just dragging down the entire community.
I am. I keep sexualizing these horrible gay men.
God,
I know. I should stop being so problematic.
Stop it.
But yeah, like it takes up a lot of energy, and like,
yeah,
we're not monoliths. We all have unique and different stories to tell. Like, being queer is a part of me, but it isn't all of me.
No. Except for in Pride Month, when you turn into that meme, which is like,
yes.
Gay isn't my entire personality. Me during Pride Month. Move, I'm gay. Like, that's literally like, me in all of June.
Right. Same. It's like, I'm gay. Leave me alone. Like cutting in line. Excuse me, I'm gay.
It's like, leave me alone, but also worship me, please.
Right.
This is my month.
Do not perceive me, except during Pride Month, where I want to be the center of everyone, like, everything. And then Juneteenth comes around. Just worship me like a god. But yeah, we're not all the same. I mean, I think one of the things that I like about when Western comics do it a lot is so like Aviale does this with the main pair, and Bailey, who I can't call him the top anymore because they end up switching a lot. He ends up being like aggressively demisexual. And like that was the first time that I saw demisexual used correctly. Because I feel like most people either don't know what demisexual is, or it's just lazy asexual. And that's not true. That's not what demisexual is. So Bailey was one of the first times that I remember like seeing demisexual and being like, I understand this. And that made sense coming from a Western queer creator. Like, that felt appropriate to me. I think there's also a lot of space to talk about the fact that, like, as we mentioned, I think a lot of older fans especially do still see BL as not really something that we're meant to find representation in. If we do, it's neat.
Yeah.
But it isn't there to represent us, especially as an African American. I'm not looking at any of that shit to represent me. If it does, cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not going in with the express purpose of hoping to be represented by jack or shit.
But I also think that, that's interesting because we talk a lot about how, 10, 15, 20 years ago, whatever, when queer characters were so much less common that, you always remember the first queer character you saw or read about because it was such a shock because you'd never seen it before. And it's like, I think, that in itself is still valid. Like, yeah, I mean, it's amazing that we have so many variations now and like of different medias that show queer characters in all kinds of shapes and sizes and whatever, but there's still going to be that kid or whatever who sees that the first bit of representation you see is that, oh, it's a queer person and I've never seen that or read about that in a series before. And like that isn't any less valid now just because we have better air quotes representation.
Absolutely.
Like there is still that impact of just the fact that there are characters who have the same attractions as you do or the same preferences or whatever. That is still very valid.
Because I still know mine. It was John Constantine. A blonde sociopath, but listen.
No, I'm not judging. Like
yes, you are.
Okay.
But it was John Constantine, a messy bisexual who was also a chain smoker and alcoholic. And in no way looks like Yashiro. And I will not accept your slander any further.
I've learned my lesson. Drawing red threads between your preferred horrible men tends to end me in hot water, so I'm not gonna say anything because you never.
Yeah, you get dragged by the SS Gaslight.
The SS Gaslight is such a busy ship. Like the
very busy ship.
I'm gonna
build a model. I'm gonna build a model ship right here. It's gonna be the SS Gaslight. I'm gonna build a ship in a bottle. It's gonna be the SS Gaslight.
The SS Gaslight, if you are unfamiliar with this term, is a ship that Amanda invented during our meeting when we were talking about how. I don't even know. But Amanda travels essentially really fast at lightning speed on the SS Gaslight to teach me lessons when I have misbehaved.
Why do I sound like a mythical character?
Because you are.
I sound like a chimney Pete now.
Also, I just realized that I like picturing the SS Gaslight as like a banana boat. But okay.
It's like a magical pontoon.
Oh my god.
But yeah, like we all have that character that we found and made representation happen. And okay, here's my old boomer statement. It was so nice to build representation up over time for me rather than have it be something that I expect. Like, I remember, because I've been playing Pokemon since Pokemon first came out in the US, and it wasn't until X and Y that you had any kind of like color customization to the character. And I remember like being like fully like out of college and having like a little brown character that looked like me and just feeling like so seen.
Yeah.
And like in the later games where like, oh, like your mom matches your skin tone. And it's like, that looks like my mom. Like that looks like someone who could be like my real life mom.
Yeah.
And like, that was powerful. And it was nice to have to, I'm going to sound like such a fucking boomer. It was nice to have to put in the work to find representation for myself than to yell at companies to like rip me whole cloth and throw me into a series. I watched Across the Spider-Verse last week.
I want to see it so bad.
There's no spoilers here. But like there were little moments where like I felt super represented, even though that like my upbringing isn't like Miles's. A lot of those things still transfer. I'm not looking for a one-to-one comparison. I can feel represented because I know things like having a family.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not looking for, oh, well, he's not a gender fluid upper middle class, so he doesn't represent me. Yeah, he represents me by being brown and having parents. I did once have those.
But it's very hard you can't represent every single person within
No, it's
one
impossible.
character. That is
It's
impossible. And I think, and I think that you're making such great points, because I'm actually someone who, like, and again, like, I enjoy representation, right?
I do too.
I've never craved it, if you get what I'm saying. And of course, part of that is I am a white cis woman. Like, I have representation. I grew up a small blonde girl. So everything I saw on TV looked like me, right? So I don't know that struggle, or that the isolation of not seeing someone who looked like you. And I've also always been like, I'm very chill about like my sexuality and everything. Like it was just a thing that just sort of happened. And I think maybe because it just happened and I didn't go around, wondering and fearing that what if I am gay, or what if, this or that. It was just something I realized one day. And then now I'm like, oh, it's cool if I see that reflected on screen. But I personally have never craved representation in that sense. So I'm more of I absolutely understand why people, and especially younger people, and especially, if you have a minority background, why it's so important. But for me, it's more of a, like, like you said, I think it's neat if they are, touching upon a particular group or a particular struggle or something that can be easily recognizable and can have meaning. But for, like, I personally don't, you understand what I was saying? Like, I
get it. I get it.
Yeah.
No, I get it. And I think the other big thing is that, and this comes from representation of all kinds, is that typically the representation that we do get, especially if it's out group versus in group, tends to focus on one aspect of it, which is struggle.
Yeah.
Every bisexual is going through this crisis of faith. Am I straight or am I gay?
And I have to choose.
And I have to choose. I have to pick a side. Every Black person, they have to go through this slave narrative. And while racism is a crushing yoke, you don't have to dredge up slavery for every Black person. Like, we aren't all like that.
And it's, I think largely because it is typically the majority that controls the narratives. Because, and I talked about this when I did like that small presentation I did for the Pride event a couple of weeks ago, that, touching upon how queer representation in, I don't want to use the word mainstream media because that sounds very, not Boomer. Great. Yeah. But like, in say Hollywood, for instance, like anything that is kind of like the focusing on the big picture and like where you can get your money, like even if there is gay representation, it is done to be, it's not done for us, it's done to be palatable to a cishet audience. And so it has to be a certain way. And that's, again, the struggle narrative, because how can we tell gay stories if it's not about the struggle of coming out? Like, God forbid you just have a queer people, like your favorite mass murderers having breakfast.
Right. And it's just like, you have like the bury your gays trope where like being gay is so hard that you have to die.
Yeah.
But and that happens and that's very sad.
Yeah.
But that's not everything.
But then likewise, I see a lot of people wrongly applying the bury your gays trope if a gay character dies in anything.
Yes. Like because if a gay character is just hit by a bus, it's like, oh, we gotta bury our gays. Like, no, he was standing in traffic. He got hit by a bus.
Which is, one of the things I really like about horror movies, because it's like, no, they didn't die because they were gay. They died because it's a horror film and everyone died, okay? Except the final girl who has to be in the next film. And it's
Like, this character died because he was standing in the middle of traffic and the bus was there.
Yeah, and so,
it had nothing to do.
And in some stories, if you're writing a tearjerker where the ultimate goal is to break your reader's heart because you're killing your main character, hello, I have done this, then, I mean, it sort of goes under the trope, but at the same time, it's like, what is the purpose of the narrative, right? Why is this character dying? And sometimes the character dies because it's important to the story, and they just happen to be gay.
Yeah, 100%.
That doesn't mean that. Yeah,
100%. And sometimes, yeah, like fans can be really, really vitriolic about that. When like there are instances of Barry or gay that are like overt and obvious. I mean, Cass went to mega hell.
And again, I'm so glad I was never in that fandom because you guys, you're not okay.
The car went to heaven.
The car?
The Impala goes to heaven.
Is the car sentient?
The car went to heaven, Carola.
What the fuck? Okay.
Cass admits having gay feelings for Dean Winchester.
Is Cass an angel?
He is a literal angel. And he goes to mega hell. Because by this point, he and Dean have like adopted this like small demon child. Because they're gay. Yes.
Why is there a mega hell? What lands you in mega hell?
Being gay, apparently.
I was about to say, is it like reserved for gay people?
Wanting to fuck Dean Winchester, I guess.
Oh, I guess a lot of people are going there then.
I mean, all of his crushes do die horribly. Like, all the women.
Based on my old Tumblr feed, that's going to be a very crowded place.
Yeah, I imagine Mega Hell is full of all of Dean's exes. But yeah, like that's a genuine instance of Barry or gay, and the fandom took that and just imploded. We took that on ourselves. We were just angry. we took that and we self-immolated. We did that thing where sometimes if a wasp enters a beehive, the bees will come in and they'll swarm the wasp and they'll overheat it because the wasp can't take heat the same way bees can. That's what we did.
Okay.
I know too many things about things.
I'm amused. I enjoy, but I think I've heard that actually somewhere.
Yeah, it's actually like bees will like cuddle wasps to death. It's great. But yeah, like representation is such a fraught subject, and I think it's so important to talk about because it shouldn't and doesn't look like one thing. I'm glad that we were able to expand it to talking about everything. We had a whole outline that we just like didn't go into because
we've sort of touched upon it.
Yeah, we've loosely touched the outline.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to elaborate on from the outline?
I want to elaborate on fantasy really, really fast again because I think that we can hammer that point home a little bit harder. If you are reading BL, specifically of like the yaoi variety, to be represented, I fully respect you. That's not why I'm here. I don't agree with the sentiment of you shouldn't look for it at all. But that's certainly not why I'm reading Maiden Rose and, Twittering Birds for the 15th time. Or, anything by Harada. Like, I'm not reading those works to be represented. If you are cool.
Yeah.
Like, if you are awesome, and I would point you in the direction of many Western creators who are doing very similar things that are actually making strives to represent diverse casts. The other thing is that with the expansion of headcanons, I feel like the definition of what BL really is changes a lot because I realize, because I still ingest like a shocking amount of Omegaverse.
I'm shocked.
Like a lot of it involves some very, very complicated, alignments of parts.
Yeah.
So it's,
which, is part of the reason why I struggle. But I respect it. Like, I respect that.
I do. And I think that's interesting because, that's never read as less BL to me.
Yeah.
Because trans men or men with vulvas does not read any less as two gay men in that scenario to me. Especially if it's under, the Omegaverse umbrella. Because that's just a whole other thing. But, yeah, when I started thinking about it this morning, as you do, I woke up like Cinderella and I was thinking about Omegaverse.
As one does.
As one does. Then it was like, yeah, this doesn't look like what most would consider male romance to look like.
Male romance. I mean, there were a lot of those.
Oh, there were several. Oh yeah, yeah, lots of those. But it doesn't look, feel, or sound like what I would have assumed.
Yeah,
that to be when I was younger. But I don't categorize it as anything different now. It
True.
still is, even if one of those characters is in possession of female assigned parts. And I think a lot of that is, like just my understanding and my growth, that I obviously see gender less in a binary that way. And I understand the validity of trans people. I think that's where representation can be great, is when you take those resources and you build the representation that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And stop bullying countries that don't have gay marriage when gay marriage is threatened in our own backyard.
Yeah. And I think, just piggybacking off of that, and the point that is in the outline that says, how do we actually make BL more diverse? I think that that is exactly it, right? Because we are constantly engaging with the genre, be that, if you want, like, if you separate between, like Western BL and Asian BL or Japanese BL, whatever, we make it more diverse when we are crossing these cultural lines, because we are mixing it up. Like when you are publishing your own BL comic on Webtoon or Manta or whatever it is, you are using your own context, both personal, cultural, historical, whatever, and mixing it with the genre, and therefore, constantly pushing the narrative. And that's how we are also getting characters who are more diverse in their backgrounds. Like, there are people of color. And again, like, just, as a side note, we have to remember that most manga is about Japanese characters in Japan, and even though they are drawn in a manga style, they're not white people. So
unless they're meant to evoke Aryan looks, because Japan still really likes that.
There's that thing. And there are a lot of like half Western, or like, you have, again, I'm gonna mention him because he's a big deal.
Harry?
Yeah, him too, but like Ash? Ash, because Ash,
I was like, it's gonna be one of the two. It's gonna be Ash or it's gonna be Harry.
One of the two, Ash or 80. No, but I was cosplaying as Ash last weekend, so he's kind of been on my mind this entire week. I was actually not going to wear him, but then it was supposed to be so hot in Oslo. Okay. My girlfriend was like, please don't wear Mistopheles because you'll have a heart attack.
Okay, but also don't refer to the costume as him, because now I'm imagining it's kind of like Buffalo Bill shit where you're just wearing his skin.
Don't make it so much worse because it's Ash. No, that's not what I meant.
Don't refer to that outfit as, let me drag him.
Oh God,
but because he's meant to look very Western.
Yeah, because he's an American, but
Aries just meant to be whatever he
is. Yeah, he's his own thing. But yeah, no, but so typically there are people of color, as in non-white people, in BL already, like they're prevalent. But when you take, all of our different backgrounds and heritages into the consideration, like I have so many Black friends who are making BL, who are writing Black BL characters, and and people who are writing non-binary characters or trans characters, and pushing the boundaries of what BL is, and none of those are like wrong. Like, it's just expanding the genre and the understanding of the genre,
and it's expanding it in a way that feels more authentic. Like, I can definitely tell, when a series is written by a person of color and they're representing people of color, than not. Like, there's just it's an entirely different. Okay, so this isn't a spoiler for something that happens in Across the Spider-Verse, but it happens in Across the Spider-Verse. So Miles is going to meet Miguel, and one of like the spider folks is like, oh, you should bring him an empanada. He really, really likes those. And like Miles offers him an empanada. He like tries to like speak to him in Spanish, and it's like a really, really cute moment. And I was talking to my friend Amber, who's also a Black woman, and it's like, if this happened in an MCU movie, I would think that that's horribly racist. Like if that happened between like Tom Holland and like someone else, or like even if they had like an actor of color with another actor of color, knowing that this is under Kevin Feige, I would think that that's really racist.
Yeah, I get that.
But I know the production of Spider-Verse. I know how many people of color are behind the scenes. Yeah. I know how much thought and heart went into that moment. So it took something that could have been horribly offensive and actually ended up being like kind of sweet. He's like, he's trying. Like this is, you know, they are from different cultures, but they are more akin than, you know, others. So he's trying. But yeah, like if that happened in an MCU movie, I'd be fucking angry.
Yeah, but I get that because there's so much of it. Like how you know, even I, as you know, a white person in Norway where we have we have different issues.
Correct.
I mean, not to go into the whole identity politics and everything, but everything is very, very different here than it is in the US, obviously.
Correct.
And so there's a lot of things that I don't necessarily consider when I'm watching or reading things because I don't live in it in the same way, obviously. But like you can tell what it's like. Oh, we did this to be, you know, because we felt like we had to, because tokenism, or we wanted to make them seem exotic, or, you know, let's make this person seem intelligent by having them speak a language that isn't, you know, and it's like, no, don't do that.
Right, 100%. So I had that, to bring it back to BL, was Letters for Lucardo, where
I remember you talked about that one.
Still not super crazy about the old man fucking, I'll admit that. But like
you were assaulted, you were personally victimized.
That is the oldest old man that I would not want sex with. But Lucardo's a black man, he's a black vampire, and I was like, oh my god, I can relate to him. Like I usually can't relate to a lot of black characters because they're all written like they're blocks of wood. Like they're all written like they're urban inner city gangsters, and I am the look at me. That is not me. Oh, that is not who I am. So like I could relate. He was a posh brat who has daddy issues. Same, son. Let's go.
Yeah, and like, again, because sometimes representation, you know, again, it is a personal thing. But like, and again, all black people, like all gay people, are not a monolith. Clearly,
we're not.
But it's also like I wanted to mention that earlier as well, because I know I've talked about this before. For me, representation in a lot of ways, it hasn't anything to do with me being, you know, queer as much as it is how I've always identified with male characters. So I typically find representation in male characters, but it's more like, you know, and again, it's like personality traits. It's like reaction patterns. How do they not deal with their problems? Like these are the kind of things.
Mood.
Yeah, that
I recognize. They fuck their way out of their trauma.
How do you just pretend like this issue isn't actually a thing and just try to carry on with the one-wheeled wagon that is your life? Because that is me. So yeah, so representation can take so many forms and mean so many things.
It can, and I say that because both of us love that media is becoming more diverse. Neither of us are saying we want things to go backwards.
I am never not going to be happy about, you know, character types and diversity.
I just think that, especially for us in the US, we are at a critical moment. I think we really need to stop putting our energy into fussing outwardly, and we need to put that energy towards saving ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we are at the precipice of going fully back, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, same. I don't want that for you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. But that doesn't mean that we don't want you to find joy in media. That doesn't mean we don't want you to find representation in characters. That doesn't mean that we don't want you to find all these things. Now, as we wrap up, because it's been over an hour, Carola, if I am not, let's say, a transgender man and I write a trans character, am I fetishizing trans people? is this fetishizing gay men?
That is technically, I mean, not my question to answer, because I am not a trans man, so
I'm also not a trans man.
I can't speak to that. And some people will probably disagree with it, and some people are fine with it. But, you know, like you talked about, authorial intent, like, why are you doing this? What is your intention? How are you handling it? Do you have sensitivity readers? You know, there are all of these things that we usually engage with. And again, engaging critically with content is key to handling it in the best way possible. And it's not inherently negative or fetishizing if you're writing something that you're not, as long as you're handling it with respect and awareness.
Right. And I think I definitely want to, because I mean, I wasn't respectful to Vash's pussy at all, so I'm not going to say that I was respectful. But
well, it depends. Was he enjoying it?
Oh, the second time, yes.
Oh my god.
So I'm not going to claim that I was respectful to Vash's pussy at all. But, you know, the intent wasn't to say that I'm an authority on speaking of trans. I'm not the Lorax, I speak for the trans. No, it was... Sometimes a joke catches up on you, and it's like, that was funny. Oh!
And I'm, you know, as clueless as ever, but that. So.
But... yeah, like there is space for that. And I think a lot of the angst that a lot of Western readers have about some of this stuff, you can find by supporting Western artists. Yeah. You can find by oh my god, your local fanfic writer is probably a very, very tired trans man who's working so hard right now. Like, so many more people of varying sexualities and orientations are writing fanfic than ever. Some of us have been this way the whole time, but we didn't have words for it.
Language is in constant development, and we were in the Stone Ages 15 years ago.
Yeah, we were in the Stone Ages. I was like, I feel like I'm a different gender, but I don't feel trans. It's like, okay, well, what are you? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
We didn't have a word for it.
That was generally how we handled it. But yeah, and again, it's like, it's also what you do, you know, like, you, as long as you're not projecting these fantasies or whatever onto real people, there is such a big difference between what you enjoy writing and reading, you know, in the privacy of your own home, and how you know, and then going out and projecting that onto actual people on the street. Don't do that. Like, please, regardless of their gender or their sexuality or whatever, just no. That is, we don't do that.
Yeah, I argue that that's bad for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
And like, sure. And you're not inherently bad for enjoying this content. Just like I just wanted to add that, you know, you are allowed to enjoy content that isn't, you know, the perfect representation or whatever. Yes. Like, you're allowed to enjoy that. Sometimes, especially now, the house is on fire. If you need to take a break and just read something or mindlessly watch something, then do it. You're still engaging critically if you're, you know, if the thought crosses your mind that, well, that wasn't handled very well, or that was written poorly, but you don't have to engage with that all the time. If you're enjoying the show, if you're enjoying the series, then you're allowed to do that. Just enjoy the thing. Take a break occasionally.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be so fraught. Like, call out bad representation where there's bad representation. Yes, obviously. But sometimes a spade is just a spade. Sometimes a character is just poorly written.
Yeah.
And you don't have to rage about it. It happens. It's not an indictment on an entire group of people. Sometimes writers are just bad. Yeah. And across the gamut. Sometimes writers suck.
And, you know, sometimes a portion of the story just falls through, and it's not necessarily meant towards that specific character or the group that they exist within. It's just bad writing in that patch. Maybe that writer was having a really rough time.
Yeah, maybe they were having a bad day.
Or like a bad year. What?
I'll be there for
No,
you.
dude, I was trying not to. I was trying not to. Oh, why are you doing this to me?
Because you set it up and I knock them down.
I didn't do it on purpose.
This is the part of the show where we thank our patrons.
Thank
and I'm actually going to pull up Patreon so I can say the names because I keep forgetting. And it's not because I don't love and support and care about all of you. It's because I have ADHD. And usually by the time we're done recording, I just want to get out of here.
Yeah, fair.
Not because I don't love and care about Carola. Just because it's usually been a while.
Listen, I'm not paying us. You don't have to love and care about me.
All right. This is the part of the show where we thank our patrons: Rachel Tanner, Sue, Lucy H, Amora Blue, Persona Non Gratin, which is still my favorite name, Nabila, Ren, Leslie Isham, Jamie Andreasen, Lauren Evett, Jay, Carm. Thank you all so much for being here. We just, oh my gosh, we are so fortunate to have all of you here, and we appreciate your money as it helps keep the physical and metaphorical lights on. We have some really, really cool stuff coming down the pipeline.
We always say that, but it's true.
But it's true. Like we've yet to lie.
We don't lie.
We're not. Huh?
We don't lie. If you catch me lying on this podcast, it's probably because I'm stupid and I forgot something. It's not because I intend to lie.
Yeah, if you catch me lying on this podcast, it's probably saying like I just forgot. So thank you to our patrons. We appreciate you. If you would like to join them, you can do so at patreon.com/the Yaoi Shelf. Again, that is patreon.com/the Yaoi Shelf. Carola, what are we covering next month?
All I know is that we're going to CitrusCon. That is all I know. We're going to talk more about writing fan fiction, I think.
We are.
And how it's changed over the...
So that's our CitrusCon panel.
Yeah.
For the main episode, we're going to talk about fanfic tropes.
Yeah. I knew it was something relating to fanfic, but I'm over here like, CitrusCon is coming.
Yeah, we will be at CitrusCon in August. That panel will be in lieu of a live. Patrons, you still get your exclusive video. But I'm super excited. August is great. But for now, it's our birth month. Like, if you want to support the show, become a patron, buy some merch.
Yes.
You know, Twitter is still, unfortunately, still a boat. So we are still at the Yaoi Shelf on Twitter. Carola, would you like to tell the audience at home other places that they can find us, including
our Instagram, which has been slightly neglected lately, but you can find us at the Yaoi Shelf on Instagram.
Carola's been busy.
I've been very busy. I'm dead. I'm coming to you from the afterlife.
Yeah, the mind's finally claimed her.
Yeah.
We also have a Tumblr.
We do have a Tumblr, yeah.
Where you can find us at the Yaoi Shelf.
If you are a listener only and not watching us in glorious video, you can listen and watch us on YouTube at the Yaoi Shelf.
And we are very, very quick to answer our comments on YouTube because I am prowling like a shark.
And I like to see the comments and then not answer
and then
them.
Not do anything.
I will get better at that, but it's like I'm just sorry. And then Amanda will be like, "Oh, this blah, blah, this comment." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I saw that yesterday." And she's like, "Dude,
you didn't do anything." Yeah, which is my favorite part, where it's like, "Hey, I saw this comment." Like, okay, cool. Did you answer it? No.
No.
But I saw it.
I saw it. This is how I relate to everything in my life, though. So don't feel like you in particular, Amanda, or our audience are being ignored. This is unfortunately just how I live my life.
There was a shocking lack of Sansa in this episode.
Yeah, I don't know where he is.
Is he in the bush?
Probably in the bush. He was in here and had dinner before I started recording, so he's probably outside in the bush.
But I'm so excited that it's our birth month. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.
It was fun to talk about representation again. I feel like this was a really, really good conversation.
Yeah, I think so.
Great job, everybody.
If there's something we didn't discuss or didn't touch upon, please, leave it in the comments or bring it to the live, because we're going to talk more about this at the end of the month.
Yeah, 100%. And, for some of that spicy engagement, tell us some characters in BL that, like, you really felt represented by. Like, on any level, if you're comfortable doing so.
Yeah, and just look at the two of us. We don't exactly have the best track record when it comes to characters we feel represented by. So you don't have to be ashamed. There's no shame in this house. It's fine.
Me and my box of sketches. Thank you guys. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the next one.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.